Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
2025. What are some things that you want to be different? Changes in your heart, changes in your habits, and how do you get there? I'm Sam Kelly. Help is coming. It is as if you had your own personal counselor who could sit down with you and help you untangle some of the knots from the stuck behaviors and life situations that you've had. We get a chance to sit down with Dr. Jantz from the Center, A Place of Hope, and talk about some of the harder subjects. Like, how do you take care of yourself when you're so busy taking care of other people? When do you know that it's anxiety, or when is it just regular worrying? What do you do if someone's broken your heart? How do you deal with rejection? Are you burnt out? What do you do with burnout? How do you stop it before it becomes burnout? How do you stay grateful in a world that is just kind of angry? So looking forward to these conversations coming up in the new year. It is life to our hearts. It's called Light in the Darkness. Big thanks to our friends at Fisher Plumbing and Asset Roofing for making this possible. Light in the Darkness. In the Bible, John 1:5 says, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." We are stepping into this new year with a fresh perspective. We're asking God to shine light on some hard topics, how we can move forward with freedom and with hope. I'm Sam Kelly. This is Light in the Darkness. It's a 5-part podcast series with Dr. Jantz from the Center, A Place of Hope. Thank you for being here.
Good to be here. And we have important topics. Wow.
We do. These are topics that we got from you. So we reached out and we said, what is stressing you out? What do you have concerns about? And these were the top 5 that people said. So the one that we're on right now is burnout. Overcoming burnout or stopping burnout before it happens. What is burnout exactly?
Burnout is an interesting word. It's really not a psychological term, which is good. And burnout is like a few steps. If you've been stressed out, burnout is a few steps beyond stressed out. Now, remember, when we're stressed out, we just keep going and going. I'll be okay. I know I'm stressed out. And we keep going. And then one day we kind of hit a wall. And the wall is emotional. It's like, I don't have any reserves. And the wall is probably physical. I recall a time talking with a gentleman who, he was beyond burnout. And he said, I knew I was in trouble when I would get up in the morning, and it just kind of took energy to breathe. It's like, it takes so much energy just to breathe. I knew. And so burnout then can cause us to feel desperate. It's like, okay, I'm so burned out. I don't even know if I can keep going. I feel desperate. And this is where we start maybe to make decisions like, okay, I know I shouldn't do this, but then you turn to alcohol.
Right.
You turn to something in order to feel, you want to change how you're feeling.
Right.
And it's easy, or maybe you don't turn to alcohol. Maybe you're doing 10 cups of coffee a day.
It's a lot of coffee.
Or what, you turn to stimulants. But you're looking to I call it mood modulate. I want to feel differently.
Right.
And so you start to do things that, they're usually self-destructive. Maybe food becomes too much of a friend. Okay, so years ago, I did go through a period of, I would say, beyond burnout. And I did feel depression, and I did feel totally depleted. And I remember the feeling of, I can hardly wait to get home, and I just want to sit down. I'll have that bowl of ice cream. No, I'll have that half gallon of ice cream. It's like, you just feel like I got to escape.
Yes.
I remember those feelings.
So it's so encouraging and awful at the same time to have you say that, because you're the professional. And so you went through this. What caused you to have it?
Okay, and this, I think, is true for most. We have really good intentions. I had good intentions. I really was passionate about what I was doing. I loved what I was doing, but I had trouble saying no and putting boundaries around time. And so in my case, and this was years ago, but I had a hard time saying, no, my last appointment is whatever it is. I just kept saying yes. And I lost control of my schedule, And I have to tell you, it's embarrassing to even think about the things I did. But yeah, it was 6 days a week. But then, sure, I can meet you Sunday afternoon.
Wow.
And that's what you're doing
Yeah.
all the time. Now, honestly, is all with good intentions. But I stopped taking care of myself, and I was in chronic stress. I looked terrible. I really do have I have a before picture, and it was funny. We were going through, so the center, A Place of Hope, is 40 years old, and we were going through all these old pictures to kind of put together a video of our last 40 years. And we came across my before picture, and LaFon goes, my wife says, you look so bad then. I don't think you want to show that one. And I go, wow, you know what? Because chronic stress and burnout, well, it affects you. After a while, you don't feel lovable. You feel you don't have value, and you look in the mirror and you go, I don't like what I see, and you're really not taking care of yourself, and it really, really begins to show. And that was my case.
What do you do when someone comes into the center, A Place of Hope, and you can tell this person is in that burnout zone? What do you start with?
Well, with empathy, because they probably got there innocently. They didn't intend to be this place, and I know that it's probably worse than what they're presenting. I know that there's a possibility they may be doing behaviors that they're not proud of. And I'm so glad that they've made a decision to get help. So for me, it's empathy and compassion, but now we need to put together a plan. But I want to understand how did we get to where we are? What was that journey? Help me understand it. And so did we see, was there some external crisis that happened that just was the tipping point for you? Was there a death? Was there a loss of a job? What was the tipping point where you no longer were able to manage things? And then I'm going to also look for, is there a potential of some hurt, some unforgiveness? Did you have some significant rejection in your life, and you just haven't recovered from it? Maybe there was betrayal, and you haven't recovered, and you're still hurting, and you're not taking care of yourself, and you've allowed this just to keep going, and you are in a beyond burnout stage. So I want to understand, what was that journey, or what were the tipping points?
When you find the tipping point, then what do you do from there? Is it physical? Is it mental? Is it spiritual? What's the process? I know you guys at the center, you guys do kind of the whole person thing, but if I came in and I was the burnout girl, what would you do to help?
Yeah, and I'm so glad you mentioned the whole person thing.
The approach.
Yeah, there we go. The whole person. Well, physically, I do want to know what's going on with you, so I'm going to probably ask one of our doctors, just do some blood work. Are you low in vitamin D? Are there hormonal issues? Are there some really significant deficiencies? Are you so stressed out that your thyroid function is low? I want to know, medically or what internally, is there digestion issues that what is your body carrying? I want to know, because this is going to amplify all the symptoms. So we're just going to check things out physically. What is going on with you, so we know. And I'm going to also look at nutrition. I'm going to look at what is going in your mouth or not going in your mouth. What's a typical day look like? So what are you doing? And then I want to know help me understand what's a day look like? How are you spending your time? What's even like sleep? Do you have a normal bedtime? And when you go to sleep, are you staying asleep, or are you waking up 3, 4, 5 times a night? What is going on? Are we sleep deprived? That it's creating, because that's going to create a very anxious brain, and you're going to feel anxiety. So we want to look at that. So again, we're going to assess the whole person. There could be something that happened in a relationship that is a big deal. Something happened. Somebody said something that was exceedingly painful, and you felt some betrayal, or you felt some trust was broken, and that wound is very deep. So I'm going to look at that.
A lot of times when you hear something like that happening, people say, well, it just takes time to heal from it. Are there some wounds that you can't heal from?
Sam, you always ask such great questions. Are there some wounds that you cannot heal from? No, I really believe that healing, there are some wounds that are so deep that we know the only way I'm going to make it through this, it's supernatural, divine intervention. I think that sometimes there's levels of forgiveness because the pain is so great. I remember talking to a gal, and she said, if I really told you how bad it was and how deeply I am hurt, I can't do it because I am pretty sure I will lose my mind. She thought, I'll never come back. And so those are times where I personally believe there's Holy Spirit intervention. God intervenes in a person's life. It's bigger than we are. And so I do. And I've seen situations that seemed impossible to even think about forgiving, where a person has crossed that bridge and the healing that occurs. So I believe some of those are miraculous. It's God work.
I like that answer. What about, because we talked earlier about how to do all the things so that you don't get to burnout. So maybe what are you looking for when you're in the early stages of stressing and you don't want to go to the place where you're way past and it's going to take you a long time to get back out? What do you look for and what do you do? Okay,
Sam, what are my early warning signs?
Yes, please.
Yes. So have I stopped taking care of myself? Am I skipping a meal or breakfast, or am I doing those 10 cups of coffee a day? What am I doing that's self-destructive? That's an early warning sign. Am I doing any escapism behaviors? Am I eating in secret? Am I in social media in secret? Am I, pornography? Am I doing anything that's in secret that is kind of escapism behavior? Those are early warning signs. If I also am avoiding people, I want to isolate. Well, what's that look like? Well, I normally go to this Bible study or this service, but I'm just starting to isolate. So when I'm usually around people, I'm choosing not to be around people. I'm isolating.
What do you recommend if someone starts seeing those things and goes, yeah, I might be walking up on the edge of that?
What would I say to them?
Yeah. What do you do?
Yeah. Let's start to take some baby steps. Let's go, okay, if I keep doing this, what's another month going to look like? Where's this taking me? Okay, so I'm going to need to step back a bit. And I think it's really important to kind of humble yourself and go, okay, this is starting to get out of control. I don't like this direction. And you've got to be willing to listen to somebody and be honest. You have self-awareness. Now be honest about it. And the next word that comes to my mind is, I'm going to be honest and I'm going to be accountable.
That's good. What if it's a child? What if it's someone that you see, a teenager of yours or your spouse, and you see that they're the ones who are struggling? How do you gently and kindly help them move towards health?
Yes, a child, a teenager. Teenagers can be the most challenging because they've stopped listening to you.
Yes.
Okay.
We have one. Yes.
Yeah, they're not listening anymore. Or it's a different level of listening. And sometimes we can be so frustrated by them, and they're making their own decisions. And sometimes you see, the detrimental decisions that they are making. So here's what my suggestion would be. Usually a teenager, they're going to listen to somebody else besides a parent. That's hard to say, but it's true. So who are the influences in my teenager's life besides their peers? Because I want them to have a mentor. I want them to have an influence that's beyond me. I did this with both of my sons, and let's see, one son right now still meets with the mentor and is still in relationship with that person, and it started years ago. And so the power of the influence of somebody else in a teenager's life is huge. But don't be surprised, because if we are over hovering, they're going to have to learn some things, and sometimes it's super painful to watch it.
I love that there are things we can do, and I think that's one of my favorite things about the books that you write is at the end of every chapter, there's kind of a steps that you can actually do, and I love this whole podcast. This is one I'm going to listen to again. And just want to encourage you, if you're tuning in, that this is a 5-part series, so if you missed some of the earlier ones, go back, and you can track them down on purposely.com. Dr. Greg Jantz from the Center, A Place of Hope, thank you so much for giving us the wisdom and helping us dig out from burnout and prevent it altogether. This is Light in the Darkness, and we are just grateful for you being here. And we're grateful because it grows our faith, and it just helps us to be brighter when we're shining for Jesus.
And we're not alone. We can walk through this together.
We are so grateful, and we love our sponsors, Fisher Plumbing and Asset Roofing.